Welcome.
Hello. I see Lior was in portrait mode today.
Yeah, I was feeling fancy. It was inspired by the color scheme on my shirt.
Nice.
I love seeing this whole list of people that I know most of you already, which makes me feel really awesome. Like, I've seen you before.
Yeah. Feels more like a room that we keep coming back to, even though it only has a physical space in our hearts and imaginations.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the clubhouse. That's how I imagine it. Like this little clubhouse shaped like a rocket ship, and we're all filing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see a cat. I love it. A cat.
Hi, cat. We love animals visiting, except my dog because he causes a ruckus. Our topic this month, in case anybody has not figured it out yet, is nudity. Are you excited? I figured a transparent shirt was the way to go for that subject. I was like, how do I be naked, not naked?
Because it's Zoom. Zoom has weird rules.
Yeah, I considered body paint, but I have to be able to touch the computer. Wouldn't that be messy? Ooh, Roarie, it's your past naked self. It's not.
This one, Blake Dieters made a calendar. It's really beautiful. There's a lot of great tones and textures in here. I am in here, but this one's not me. So, topic of nudity. Here we go.
Well, I love seeing things in print.
Yeah. World Naked Reading Day. Is that a thing? I guess it is a thing.
It is now.
I didn't know that was today.
Oh, cool. Good time.
How fitting.
Yeah, Reese put that in the chat. That's cool.
Also, do you guys know about the co-ed topless Pulp Fiction Society?
What?
Okay.
No.
So I've heard of them.
Yeah, in New York, there is a group that goes out and they go to Central Park and they all take their tops off and read books, and that's their whole thing. Because of course in New York that is perfectly legal.
That is amazing. I've always wanted to have a topless tea party, and now I feel inspired to do so post-corona.
Yeah, and there you go.
Stay tuned.
So,
yeah, I've know a lot about them. I've seen their website, but I think their website's down now. It's been down. Yeah, I wonder what happened.
Don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get started. So, Bunny, do you want to move to the next slide? Let's have everybody go ahead and mute themselves while we go through the quick tips and get everybody situated so they know how to work their Zoom. Hi, Ro. Your hair is looking cute. Hi, Robert. I haven't seen a lot of you in a while. Amazing. Okay, so in case anybody hasn't operated our Zoom before, this is how we do it. You have the option of speaker view or gallery view, which can be selected at the top right of your screen. Like I mentioned, the partition in the center can be moved in case you want to see more or less of the audience being engaged. Please keep your line muted when you aren't talking. This can be found at the bottom left of your screen, the little microphone guy. If you have a question that you want to speak aloud, you can click the raise your hand button or write in the chat that you would like to be in queue so that we can allow you to speak, because we will give each slide about 5 minutes. 3 of those minutes is given to the artist to speak if they wish to, and then 2 minutes is for the community to provide feedback about their experience with the work. If you, let's see, oh yeah, please include your pronouns with your name. This can be updated by clicking the participants at the bottom of the screen, then clicking more next to your name and selecting rename. Also on your little image, there's the 3 dots, and that gives you the option to put your pronouns in there. And then just a reminder, we do record audio and video from these events. So please keep this in mind to determine the level of participation that is most comfortable for you. You don't have to put your actual name. You can put your alias on there if that makes you feel good. And if you don't want to be included visually or audibly, just keep yourself muted and your video off, and you can go ahead and participate through the chat. That's totally okay too. I think that covers it. Right? Did I miss anything?
I think so. I think we're good.
All right. Bunny, would you like to introduce our introduction process?
Sure, yeah. For introductions, I really like speaker view because it's easier to see whoever's talking to know who is introducing themselves. So we're going to share our name, our pronouns, a feeling, and a movement. And everyone is welcome to mirror that movement because it's fun to like do things together. And I guess I'll go first since I'm already talking. My name is Bunny. My pronouns are they, them. I'm feeling happy and excited. And my movement is like silly arms.
Y'all can just unmute yourself for this part or do it in the chat if you would prefer to do it like that. You don't have to wait.
Hi, I'm Alexia. My pronouns are she or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. So you get question marks in my name today. And I'm feeling good, which is nice. And my movement today is just, yay, glad to be here with all of you.
I'll go next, sure. So I'm Marcus, pronouns are they, them. Feeling is actually a little bit sick, which is not fun, but I'm gonna hang in there. My movement today is drinking my tea. So if you have tea, enjoy. Cheers.
Excuse me. I'm Blake, pronouns he, him. Feeling a little sleepy this morning, frankly. And I guess my appropriate motion would be.
I'll go next. My name is Brian. Pronouns he, him, and they, them. How am I feeling? I'm feeling really good. I had my first COVID shot this month, and next Saturday I get the second and final one. No side effects, except when I sneezed, a fireball came out. So maybe there was one side effect that they didn't tell me about. And as for my movement, well, if you've got something you can squeeze on, just do that. Especially if you've had a bad week, get all that tension out.
Hi, I'm Danielle. My pronouns are ever evolving. I'm feeling expansive today. And my movement is this. You just pull on your jaw and pull it up.
Hello, my name is Robert. Can you hear me? Anyway, name is Robert, pronouns he, him. Feeling is lousy, and movement I'm sculpting. And
all right, I guess I'll go next. My name is Reese. Feeling a little bit sore because I got my first COVID shot Thursday and felt like got hit in the shoulder with a baseball bat. So my movement is just going to be rolling my arms and shoulders.
Hi, I'm Roy, pronouns are he, him, and I'm feeling pretty excited and fortunate to be able to get the COVID vaccine tomorrow is my appointment. So I'm really excited for that. My movement is very tired today.
Hi, my name is Ava. I use she, her pronouns. They, them also works. I am feeling really good. I'm feeling really happy. And my movement is flipping pancakes because that's what I'm doing right now. Happy to be here. Thanks.
My name is Roger. I am feeling, and my movement is graceful.
Last 5 seconds. Deep breath, welcoming everybody into the space. Any last introductions before we move forward? Bunny, would you like to go to the next slide?
Do we want to do more movement, or did everyone get enough movement in our introductions? I'm just gonna shake it out. We're a lively bunch today. I like it. Cool.
Just a reminder that this is an uncensored art space and all bodies and body parts have potential to be present. We invite you to sit with any discomfort if it comes up for you, while also tending to yourself as needed, which means taking care of yourself and whatever you need in that moment. It might be turning off your camera, focusing on your breath, going to get a snack, putting the top of your laptop down, whatever you need in the moment. But the images or any mediums that are shared are not censored. So. Time to share the work that everybody submitted. Who's up first? Robert, would you like to take the floor and give us some context around the pieces you share for today?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Starting with the picture on your right, that was taken with, I don't know if you have my picture on there with this camera here. It's a zone plate camera. And it's something I built from a Russian Lubitel. And I was playing with it one day and I had this, well, where is it? I have the mask. I have this mask I made a couple of years ago and was playing with it. And as I recall, that was about a 30-second exposure. And the zone plate camera does a soft, kind of slightly out of blurry, but you can't get it any other way kind of effect. The image on the left was shot with 35 millimeter back when I was a lot thinner, and enhanced a lot in Photoshop to make me look even better than I actually was even at the time. But that's my contributions. I'm going to mute myself now and you can answer questions or something, ask questions.
So here's a question. Why'd you Photoshop yourself?
Vanity.
I love that you made multiple levels of the image on the right. Like I love the halo of light on the left side is really gorgeous as well. And I love the effect of the figure, whether or not the figure's been photoshopped is up another matter. But right, I love that you like made the mask and the camera and then took the photo. It's like so many levels of authorship in that. I think it comes through. It's a really unique capture.
Thank you.
And y'all can just unmute yourselves. I'm keeping time, so don't worry.
Okay.
To share any thoughts.
I am unmuted. I don't know. The picture on the left.
Sorry, that's the 3 minutes for the author's version. That's all. And at this point, we invite the audience to describe their experience with, ask questions, anything you like on either image.
We have some really great things in the chat right now. You stated you love the softness to the right image. It's so cool you built a camera. Alexei's also expressed interest in the camera and the movement in the second image. Ava said the mask is amazing. Personally, I really love the light in the left-hand image. I think that's beautiful.
Well,
I want to wear that mask so badly. I'm so into masks lately.
Oh, well, okay. I build masks, or I used to. Anybody else?
Ron saying the goat photo is super. The mask is great. That's pretty cool that not only did you create the image, but also the mask. That's a really awesome added layer.
I was curious to know why you picked goat.
They don't show my face.
Yeah. Why did you pick a goat over any other animal?
The mask is a recreation from an old movie called Dragnet with...
I remember that movie.
Yeah, it had Ben Aykroyd and Tom Hanks in it, and it's a pagan mask.
Yeah, I remember that. That movie was a trip, suffice to say.
So, that's what the mask was from.
Yeah.
That was pagan, P-A-G-A-N, people against goodness and nicety, or something stupid like that. Niceness.
Thank you so much for enriching our experience with this mask, with that context. That I love it even more. Our time is up, but I super appreciate you submitting, and I'm really thankful that we had the opportunity to experience your creativity. I'm liking the black and whites. We haven't seen black and whites in a while, or I think Raquel's was the last submission we had in black and white, if I remember. Bunny, would you like to go to the next slide? Oh, we had a question in the chat. Rory, do you want to read that out to us before we proceed? I missed that. I didn't see that.
The answer is yes.
I don't see a question. I must be missing something.
Oh, Reese said, is it meant to look like Baphomet? And Robert said, yes.
Thank you.
Eva, would you like to share a little bit about your piece?
Hi, yeah, it's Ava. And sorry, my video's not on. I'm like eating pancakes. I guess I'll turn it on for a sec. Yeah, I didn't even remember what I submitted. I was like, what did I even put in here? So yeah, this photo was taken last summer And I used to have super long hair, and I had a bit of a life crisis, and I shaved it all off. And I only have done, yeah, I mean, none of us have really done a lot of shoots in the last year, but yeah, I think this was the last shoot that I did. And yeah, I don't know. I don't even really have anything to say about it. It just like, I miss being bald, or like having a buzz cut, and it was liberating. So yeah, I don't know. And it was nice being out in nature again, and like being, you know, doing that photographic work in nature is like definitely one of my favorite things to do. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to say.
No pressure. That was perfect. Would the audience like to share on their experience or ask Ava questions?
We do have one question, film or digital?
Digital.
I have a couple of moderator style questions for you, Ava. But first, like on a commentary standpoint, this is definitely it's an image of juxtapositions, because there is the placement of your hands. So always comes down to hands. This is a good way to emote. And so based on placement and gesture, you would think softness and delicacy for the hands. However, it's very clear that most of your tendons are tensed there. That is, you know, the standard model flex, which is why it's always so exhausting to model. And you've got bicep, tricep definition going on there. Absolutely the calves, hip flexor. And that brings in both the background and the foreground too. So if you look at the deep background, the out of focus, but then the crisp focus on the trees, that's nature. You know, she's hard and soft at the same time. So looking at that image, and specifically as it relates to nudity or topic, how did you feel in this moment? I know you just took a bite, but you know, it's that I would ask the creator how they felt in this moment. Is this a moment of strength, of vulnerability, of dominance, of submission, that sort of thing? But it's what's your relationship to nature and your bodies, specifically with relation to the topic?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I don't think my answer is going to be like as poignant or meaningful as the question deserves. So the story behind this photo is that I was booked not by Jim, who took the photo, but by another photographer who Jim is close friends with. And you know, they booked me for the full day, and you know, the goal was we were going to drive around and find locations. We drove for 9 hours that day, and we shot for like 1 hour. So this photo was like,
Oh no, Ava, can you repeat that last bit? You were frozen for a moment.
Sorry about that. I don't know why that's happening. Are we, oh crap. Am I back? Okay. I'm like, if I go into a different room, maybe it's better. So yeah, sorry. What was the last thing you heard?
You drove for 9 hours. You only photographed for one, and this photo was.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this was in the late afternoon. My body was definitely like pretty tense from being in the car for that many hours. I think that's like the worst thing. It's like, just, I don't know, just no. I mean, I appreciate being booked for a full day and having most of it be driving, but like, it was also very exhausting. And yeah, there have definitely been like more meaningful, shoots where I could answer that question in a way that feels, I don't know, better somehow. But
your answer is perfect.
That's the context. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing better than honest, in my opinion. That was spot on. Thank you so much. That was a really thoughtful question, Ro. And I love that you gave us a little insight into what your life was like in that moment before sort of the world shifted. Like that was like before the tipping point that we couldn't even see. And I think it gives it more gravity knowing that. Our time is up on this piece, but I'm loving, like, all right, what is it? 2 out of 10, and we're on a black and white trend right now. What's the next image, Bunny? Will it continue?
See all of the submissions, I was very surprised, actually.
Is Blake or Rebecca with us today? And would either of them like to share?
Blake, you're muted.
All right, how's that? Is that better?
Perfect.
All right. I'll be honest, I don't generally comment too much on my images. I really prefer to allow the viewer to make their own interpretations and draw their own conclusions. This is very indicative of the kind of work I've been doing recently. And there's a certain level of intimacy in working with other people in remote areas that a lot of models have gone to remote shooting, and I can't do it because there's something, it just lacks that intimacy that I enjoy so much, that really creates images like this that are, for me, are about power and strength and gracefulness. Yeah, that's about all I've probably got to say about it.
That's beautiful context. This was like an image that was created before, and you're just sort of like noticing, since the shift in social structures, what it was precious about that experience. I think that's really spectacular. The chat is blowing up. Rory, would you like to voice some of these lovely comments?
I started in with, I love the textures, and Robert's asked, where was this taken?
I got to admit, I made a mistake of some kind. This is not the image I intended to submit, but this particular one was taken on the north of Santa Rosa on the coast, Northern California, north of San Francisco. And so the model is actually Mauve art model, is what she calls herself online. Mm-hmm. The image of Rebecca was very similar, and it's not in the same folder, so I don't know how that happened. But anyway, it's still one of my favorite images, and it's very, very much like the image I wanted to submit. Like I say, it's about strength and power and individuality, and this is not typical for me as far as the composition goes. I don't typically plant the figure, boom, right in the center of the frame like that, but it just seemed to match the pose so nicely. The X shape to her figure, and it seemed logical to just make it a very solid centerpiece in the image.
To me, it almost feels like a birth or an arrival, like the darkness behind the model, and then just like the expansion of the pose is just like, I'm here.
When I look at this, I see a lot of recursion in a very interesting way. So with the central framing of the model, especially with the darkness around the vulva, you have this absence that the nudity reveals, but that is then emphasized by the surrogate vulva and labia of the rock face itself. So it becomes you're looking into the image, then out of the image, then into the image for each of the pieces. So the moderator question that I would ask is, how would this image be different without the nudity?
Well, frankly, I wouldn't find it as interesting, but that's an interesting question. The pose still has its value. I guess it depends on how you would clothe this figure. I mean, if you were to put her in something flowy and drapey and covering all of the ribs, the quads, those kinds of, it could still be an interesting image, but it certainly wouldn't have the same message, at least not in my mind.
I was just thinking that if the figure were clothed in something like really long and flowy, that would kind of add to the vulva labia kind of metaphor. But if it was something like really like skin tight, like a bodysuit, or if it was like a swimsuit or something, it wouldn't have anywhere near that kind of impact, because it would just be this model in the clothing in this place, and it wouldn't have the same weight. So, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I would propose both weight and immersion. This model looks like they are in the landscape as well as of the landscape.
That's definitely part of what I love about shooting nudes in nature, is that looking for those. That's a good way to put it: immersion and contrast. That's why I love shooting against rock. The flesh, the skin, against the the craggy textures and abrasiveness of it.
I love the nuance that we've brought. It was such a good question, and to really see what is happening in this image, to imagine it in a different way and how that would change it, or would bring a different message or a different conversation to the viewer. Alexia mentioned in the center of that pose that the lines of the arms and legs lead out to the corner, and that makes sort of a sense of fullness in the whole image. I totally see that, even though the model is like small, they're taking up so much space. And I also just wanted to voice, Reese mentioned that he was thinking along the same lines as Roger, and that clothing would place the figure into a time. And to just accentuate on that, I wanted to add, it would also gender the form, depending on how we perceive, like where the viewer is looking from, and the way that we perceive because me viewing this image, I don't see a woman, I just see a body. Like, bodies don't have genders to me until I've met the human being and there's a personality to attach to it. So I like how we've sort of like pieced apart like all of these different layers. It's just really interesting. The time is up for this image, but I wonder how this conversation will evolve, seeing the images to come in this context that we're building. Bunny, would you like to go to the next one? And your turn.
Okay. All right. So, so this is a drawing I did well over a decade ago, but I thought it was kind of a good thing to add in here. To give people an idea what I was going for, many of you are familiar with tarot. This is the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is normally depicted as those swords piercing the heart, so this was me pulling them out. And it is a depiction of myself in kind of an idealized form. And it was at a time when I was really starting to come into my non-binary gender and starting to kind of figure that out. Hence the thigh-high stockings and hence the thigh-high socks and the gloves, because those were my favorite things to wear when I would go to like kink events or clothing optional events, because that kind of made me stand out among other people, and people didn't immediately gender me the wrong way because they had to ask. But so most people think of the Three of Swords as a negative card because it is three swords through the heart. Nobody wants that, but I'm going to pull up the definition that I put in with when I drew this. I had blogged about it. I'm just going to talk about what this thing says. It says the Three of Swords indicates that a secret or a hidden truth is going to finally come out. It will be painful, the words will be sharp and piercing, but it will not be a bolt out of the blue. It may even be a relief to finally know. No more waiting, obsessing, wondering, worrying about what could be wrong. This cutting truth, however bitter and painful, allows all that tension and uncertainty to finally drain out. The querent knows how things stand, the truth about how they're seen by others. This development allows them to move on. So adding that along with it. So the timing of this drawing, if I recall correctly, was when I was going through some issues with my marriage. It was right before we went into, it was a little bit before we went into couples therapy. We ended up still getting divorced, but you know, it did help us figure some things out. But yeah, there are a lot of things that kind of came out all at the same time between like my gender and dealing with things in the relationship and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, it was a lot happening at once. I think I also lost another partner at the time. So it was a lot happening, but it was, you know, and those things all kind of sucked, but they also revealed a lot of truths that needed to be revealed. So there we go. So, yeah.
Some of the chat. Wow, Marcus, this is powerful. Spectacular image. Marcus's pain is so present in this image, but also hope. Thank you so much for sharing this. The art has so many layers. I like the simplicity of the image and the background.
It's mostly because I sucked at drawing backgrounds at the time. I still kind of am not great at it, but yeah. I figured it was the easier way to go. It was also easier to color because I didn't have to worry about the background. So.
Alexis shares, I love the context provided from the tarot card for this image. It adds a lot to my understanding of the image. That we were able to note the differences between adding clothes and subtracting clothes and how they can be interpreted or viewed or used in art and the different ways that they can send messages. Ron said, this is a powerful image. I'm still trying to unpack everything going on in my reaction to it. I love taking control of the bad situation. I love how the person has been pulling a sword out, slamming it into the ground, took a step forward, then pulled another sword out and jammed it into the ground, etc., not being stopped.
Yeah, that was part of it, was the moving forward bit. That was actually, that was intentional. So, yeah.
I'm impressed by your ability to convey so much emotion in just a few like lines, because like there's like just enough detail in this drawing to like really know what's going on, but you didn't necessarily need to like jam a whole bunch of detail in it in order to get your point across. I'm like super impressed by the like highlights on the drips of blood, and I'm kind of curious about like the, I don't want to say complete absence, but there's not as much like shadow in it, and I'm kind of curious if that was purposeful or if you just like didn't like just wanted just the like bare bones of what you're trying to get across.
Well, I wanted to keep things as simple as possible, but when the blood was just red with no highlights, it looked too flat compared to, and the thing is, I wanted that to stand out. And since all the other colors are flat, I wanted to have the blood be the thing that like really jumps out at somebody. So that's why I added the highlights. So if I had added highlights and shading to everything, I feel like it would have taken away from it. I mean, you still would have been drawn to the blood because it's bright red, but I feel like it added that much more contrast by making that the only thing that has any kind of like 3D depth, you know? So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do we have time for a moderator question, Lior?
Technically we have 15 seconds left, but I feel like compelled.
I'll lay it out there. One of the things that Rory mentioned here was the use of the addition of clothing to accentuate or develop or otherwise highlight nudity. So, opposed to the creator, Marcus, was that deliberate intention, and what was your thought process on selecting that?
Partially. The main thing was that I wanted to depict a type of vulnerability, but I also didn't want to have this just be a standard male figure, because it's supposed to be me in my gender. So I wanted to make sure that at least the ambiguity was present, but also because I had a lot more heightened femme leanings at the time. I wanted to really have the idea of femininity put across there, but also on a fairly, like a reasonably muscular, those some thick ass thighs, so reasonably muscular figure, so that you had that juxtaposition of like the femininity, but this person is clearly somebody who, is an athlete also. So, so I wanted to have both.
So spectacular. Thank you so much for adding that extra nuance. I am very curious about the idea of femininity being expressed through clothing by covering. I think that's super interesting. So thank you so much for sharing, Marcus. Everyone had really thoughtful questions on this one as well. I don't want to go on because I'm so enraptured by the splat in the center. It like draws you in. It has this like, it's like holding me, like it's looking back at me. I don't know what it is. Amazing. I'll enjoy this with the PDF that we send home. Funny, would you like to proceed to the next image? Thank you so much.
A quick thing on the clothing highlighting nudity. A friend of mine refers to that as extra naked.
Extra naked. Oh my God. I'm writing it down. I love that. I also love that you chose like a tarot that is like positive or has a potential to be a positive spin when you talk about like discovering gender identity and expressing it. Because so many people, I think, imagine that it's going to be a hassle or like an inconvenience. And they're like, oh, it's not worth it. It's like, no, it really is worth it. Like, look at how much blood's coming out when you're like trying to get to a place of visibility. Like, yeah, that was super striking. Let's move on to this gorgeous, another black and white. I'm here for it.
Would you like to share?
Hello, everybody. I just arrived. Oh, sorry. It was on point, as I can see. I choose this capture because in these times of quarantine, yeah, it was a pleasure to finally connect with somebody, with a person that, well, I connected since the first day I met her. So this was a remote shoot. I was in here in Portugal and she's in Ireland. We discussed the details after, and then we just just began to shooting. And this capture is the one that's more remarkable for me. The pose, the branches, the arms, the dreads, everything connects for me. The line between the hands, her hands, and the branches almost connect. And yeah, that's it. It was was really good for me to shoot in this time. It's the first time since we quarantine here. So yeah, that's what mostly represents for me, this capture. Thank you. If you want to have any questions.
I love the pose, and I'm curious if you gave a lot of direction to the model about like to direct the model into this pose, or if it was kind of an organic pose that just happened throughout, like during the shoot.
Actually, it was kind of organic, and I gave a direction. So she made the pose, and she was unframed, and I was like, take two steps back, and it was really on point. It was the mix of both. Actually, when she posed, I was looking at the capture and was like, yeah, that's it. You have to take two steps back, and perfect. Yeah. Was this shoot? Sorry.
We've got some great chat in the comments. Reese says that bringing nature into the interior is very cool, along with the tonal values. Golly, the digitation of the branches strongly echoes the hands. I love that. I love that Roger noticed that, to the point where each hand is replicated in at least 2 branches, which is very very handy. Was the shot outdoors or in a studio?
It was in her house, in the studio, yeah. Okay. Actually, she put the branches on a tripod, closer to the camera, and then we used them. Actually, all the shoot was kind of with the branches in the caption. Yeah.
Alexi is commenting on all the lines in this photo are so lovely. I really love it. And Roy said, I was thinking the same thing as Roger. They look like hands reaching out.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect timing. Our timer just went off. Thank you so much for submitting this. Gorgeous. Love the nature. We love a nature. Next one, Bunny.
Thank you.
Another nature, Reese Bolton and Melissa Moon.
This is images out of a series of images I've been making. I titled the series of images "Elegant Machines" because of something I read referring to the human figure as humans as elegant machines. And I've always felt that putting the figure in nature kind of connects it back to more of the simplicity of everything, particularly an unclothed figure, because it strips away the societal indicators of like status or gender or things like that, and just puts the individual back into nature. And actually, like, there was about 4 or 5 of us the day the shoot was done that all participated. I actually have images of myself in this series as well. And it's the location, Bunny may know where it's at. It's the Robinson Rock House at Reedy Creek Park down in Charlotte.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
I love it there, but it's so crowded a lot of the time. Early morning.
well, this was a few years back when I shot most of these, but like we got out there, had one person while we were shooting, one person stood lookout and kind of let us know if but while we were doing it, we actually had a couple people come through. Like one guy was trail running and just like, it's okay, I'm a painter, I paint figures, and just kept on running. But yeah, like, and the thing about it, the model in this image, she has changed so much since this image was taken. She's dropped like a lot of weight. So like kind of in the long lines with the conversation that happened earlier this week between Lior and Bunny talking about consent. I actually got her consent before I shared this image, seeing how she'd done so much change from the time the image was taken to what she looks like now. So I wanted to make sure she was okay with me sharing the image of her former self. So, but yeah, I always liked the idea of the nude nature, like going back to simplicity, and it removes it from a timeline, basically.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that context. That's really spectacular how you went above and beyond to take care of your collaborator and make sure that, you know, they felt safe knowing that their piece and their past body was going to be shared with this group of people. That's really special. We have 2 minutes for the audience to share. What are people's thoughts and feelings about this image?
There's a lot of great stuff going on in the chat if no one has anything that they want to share immediately. All right. I love the title. I thought that was really cool. Thank you for sharing that, where it came from. Brian says, I love the soft gaze effect. I love this so much, so many levels of gorgeous and softness to this. I'm curious, you know, if this is film or what medium it was.
It was originally shot on film. The film was processed, then I scanned the negative, and this is actually done with from an inkjet printer. I coated I think it was cold press printmaking paper with a medium that would allow to print a photo onto it. So that's kind of why you see some of the lines in it, and that's also how like it also added to the softness of the image. Like if you notice some of the soft glowiness of it, that was enhanced by the process of the print of it. Then I rescanned the image to
sounds like a heck of a process, but I'm so grateful that you went through all of the steps to arrive here and share this with us. Thank you. Blake said, marvelous form. The model's personality shines out of her eyes. And I'd mentioned you were saying that this person has changed. So this image has captured a different point in a particular person's life. So it's almost like a document. This reminds me of a photo from the 19th century. Well, that's about it for the chat. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this?
I would like to add a little bit of context, just since I know like where this was taken. I go to this place a lot. Like I love the Robinson Rock House. It's like a fun hike, and it's just like that tree is like this ancient Osage orange tree that like has fallen down and it's starting to like decompose very slowly. But that tree is like massive and old, like super, super old. And I think like the process that you use to get the look with this image really goes with like me knowing the age of that tree. I think it really goes together as like a kind of antique look. So I think it fits with the location really well. And I love the softness of the body, and then like the harsh, like grounding sturdiness of the tree. I think it's beautiful.
So the one mod question that I have, we'll make this fast. Since nudity, especially as presented in art, does not exist in a vacuum, creators always have to be aware of both the context that it's consumed and the context in which it's created. Reese, specifically, since you had to encounter this in a space that was both public yet made private, could you speak to how you made that decision and how it changed how this art is presented or was created?
Well, some of how I view the body is very informed by the fact that I am a naturist and nudist. I'm somewhat of an advocate for the vulgarization of the body, I guess or making the body seem more normal, particularly an unclothed body, because there's so much stuff packaged into the use of clothing. We judge people based on how they're dressed, because it's an indicator of their status, their wealth, their social and political beliefs. It's just removing the clothing removes a lot of the expectations of society. So, and the fact that this was a public park and it's the space meant to be used by all people, not just people who are fit into the clothed or normal seeming standards of society. So hopefully that answered the question adequately enough.
Yeah, you did a great job. I love that sentiment of wanting to normalize bodies and, demystify bodies and, make them not a center of disgust, but a place of delight. And I can see the connection and delight in the eyes, as someone mentioned in the comments. I'm not sure who it was, but someone had mentioned how the personality was coming through, and that's a testament to how comfortable that they felt with you. I love that. Bunny, would you like to proceed to the next image? Another black and white. Raquel, would you like to speak on this?
I don't see Raquel on our participants list, so I'm not sure if they were able to make it today. But I do remember I had DM'd with Raquel a little bit previously about this shoot, and Raquel said it was a lot of cleanup, but it was so worth it.
Lior, do you want to do the thing we do when artists aren't here? We just open it up to the floor, see what feedback.
Yeah, let's see what we imagine was the intention or what your experience is with this without that context.
I'm trying to decide if I'm seeing rage, joy. I'm having a tough time with getting over that dichotomy. It seems like both these emotions could be in there at the same time.
I like that observation. Oftentimes there are more than one emotion happening at the same time. Like for me, I see rage and I also see release, because it's not often in this body am I able to express anger. And that image gives me so much joy seeing that there is permission or space to express something that isn't considered pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I seen with it. Was more of just not really one emotion, it's just a release of emotional energy of all types.
I really enjoy the mirror in it. When the artist views this, I really like how low you would have to get to view yourself in the mirror. And just that explosiveness of where the handprints are can kind of reinterpret the movement and the dance and the energy that was released in the making of the work.
Roger said that I have a write-up that Raquel made for me when I was having a moderator style chat with her. Shall I share?
Okie dokie. I'm going to have to swap over to my other screen where, okay, so this is from Raquel. I struggle sometimes because of language. English facilitates this for me. Here in Portuguese, I do follow some pages, but it's still very confusing at times. I do scare myself sometimes, especially like this when getting ready for a shoot, building a mood, getting ready to face a part of me. So yes, sometimes I do get scared of my own look. Other times I am aroused as well, or just able to conquer all. It's indeed a mix. Black and white also helps this. And then I asked her the moderated question for this one. What tools or techniques do you use to build a mood such as this? Her response, I would love to know a straight answer to that. But it's a lot on my mood itself. But some stuff do help when I want to boost it. They may seem silly, but here it goes. Makeup. I don't use it on a daily basis. It's rare to happen. So when I use it, it depends if it's to have a more femme look. So to make something look weird, to building a character. It kind of starts happening already. But when I work nude, a little piece of cloth can make me feel more feminine or more masculine. Music, I have it going before starting a shoot. I tend to feel more emotional ones when I'm nude. And then the lack of that makeup that I would use makes it even more natural. For this shoot, I can tell you the music was more heavy, like villain soundtracks, badasses, because I was feeling good, badass and edgy. So these music helps me make my elements, external ones, to hype the mood that is already there.
Wow. Thank you, Roger, for making that connection with Raquel and having that discussion and being willing to share it with us. That's like so special. We get to have her presence with us and articulated through your careful questioning. You always know how to get us deeper into the subject. I really appreciate that. We have like 9 seconds left. Does anybody have any final thoughts about the use of nudity in this piece or the emotions present? I love learning that she wasn't mad. It was like a powerful feeling, which is what I think of when I think of somebody who is, like you mentioned, Rory, allowed to express rage. Who else? It's like your boss and our ex-president. That embarrassing wreck.
There's some great comments. Do you want to dive into that?
Sure, go ahead.
Also, Raquel just joined.
Oh, Raquel!
Yay!
We had a really good time with your piece.
Yeah. I'm going to read out some of the comments. Let's see. I love how much emotion there is in this photo and the range of emotions. Stunning, bold lines and shapes. The figure is captured at the peak of emotion. The handprints on the wall express energy. Anger bursting out. It feels like it's unloading a burden. And then reminds me of Wolverine from X-Men after a killing spree. Also a release. That's an awesome write-up. That's what I felt when I saw it, not anger. And then Raquel joined us.
I'm really excited for you to see everyone's reaction to your piece in the recording, Raquel. But if you would like to take 10 seconds and just add any extra things, is there something really important that you wanted us to know about this image before we move on?
Hi, sorry, I'm very confused because I just entered, I was on, and what's happening? So sorry, but I will be fast. I don't know. I'm even not reading comments. I will read them all. I just bumped. It was messy, so that's for sure. But yes, it was a release. Actually, yes, anger actually was one. Anger, not anger, rage. It was a rage release. Actually, was the feeling, was in the rage mood. So if it passed up, nice. And yes, I had Wolverine also after when it was editing, I was like, damn. Yeah, but I will not take any time from others because I just like entered very fast. So quick and thank you, and I will be reading and replying after. So next.
Thank you so much for sharing, Raquel. That's really beautiful. That was the one mystery left in our questioning. Like, was there rage? Was it not rage? Was it how many people were in the room? How many Raquels were in the room, right? Arthur mentioned if a picture says 1,000 words, and this picture to me is saying 1,000 words on the word catharsis. I love that. I'm just gonna, because I can say nothing better than that. Bunny, onward to the next slide. Thank you so much, Arthur, for sharing that. Gorgeous comment. Okay, Ron B. and Debbie Baxter.
Okay, yeah, Debbie's not here, but that's me in the nest there. Okay, so the story is Debbie Baxter is a photographer in Portland, and she has her nest project where she builds these giant nests, and people get undressed and they get in the nest and they get photographed. It's actually part of a workshop she runs where you basically you're coming and you're talking about some pain in your past and you're leaving it behind, and then you get in the nest and get photographed. The backstory here was that since our topic is nudity, and this is a very nude photo, I figured it had to be the right one I would pick. Over the years, there are some other nude photographs of me that had been taken in the past, but they were always for private use. I'd never let anybody take a photo of me if there was any chance of it getting published. These ones for the Nest project were going to be published. So anyway, what happened is that over the years, yeah, I never wanted anyone to, like, yeah, if you're going to take that picture, you know, don't publish it anywhere. But as I got older, I think this is part of that wisdom you're supposed to acquire when you get older. It's really perspective. I discovered over the years that an awful lot of the things that I used to worry about and get put a lot of effort into worrying about and freaking out about and concerning myself, it just really don't matter. And the thing is, nudity is, why the hell are we all so freaked out about it? And so, and the thing is that every single one of us has an imperfect body. See, that's the thing, is a lot of times, well, you know, I don't have a model's body or whatever. From what I've heard, now I know there's some models here, so I'm not going to speak for everyone, but from what I've heard, an awful lot of models don't think they have models' bodies. So we all think we're imperfect. And so I got to the point, so then why am I so freaked out? I actually wouldn't mind having a nude photo of me published somewhere. It's just sort of, for my own mental health, it's like, see, you know, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so the backstory here was that this was 3 or 4 years ago when this was taken. I had gone through a really bad breakup, and my life was a mess. And I thought, I'm going to move to a new city and restart my life. So I got up to Portland. I found out about this. Now, if you go to our website, you know, it's almost everybody's in some form of the fetal position. And I was looking at that and thought, oh, what a wonderful symbol of restarting my life. I want to go do this. And even though I was willing to have a photograph of me published, I still was cautious and didn't want to do anything too revealing and stuff. So you look at the photos on our website and almost everybody's in the fetal position and none of the fun parts are showing. So I thought, oh, heck, I can do that. So I went to the workshop when I got into the nest. So I did a fetal position thing. And I thought, this is wrong because I don't feel like I'm restarting my life in this position. I feel like I'm regressing, retracting. I'm sort of going backward. And so I started shifting around in the nest, trying to find something that would be better for me. Now, the thing is that, of course, she's photographing the whole time. And I knew that because she had talked about publishing a book. And at the time, it was going to be everybody's picture was in the book. Now, right now, the book's on Kickstarter. It's kind of expensive, but anyway, you should check it out anyway.
Thank you so much, Ron. That was a wonderful context. The timer just went off, and I want to make sure that we have enough time for everyone to share their feedback with this work.
Okay, sure.
I love that you were one of the only ones to say the fetal position doesn't feel like the right one for rebirth here. That is such a gorgeous, like, meditative shape and structure. Like Reese mentioned, that it has a meditative quality just looking at it. Would anyone like to come unmuted in the next 2 minutes and share their thoughts?
I've got my mod question if nobody else. Okay, so for this one, especially with the context of the consumption of the nude image, Ron, how did your knowledge that this would be seen and consumed by people outside of your direct acquaintanceship impact both the pose and your presentation in this image?
Well, that's the thing, is that if I had known I would have ended up with this image, I never would have gone. So the thing was, when I was in the nest, I kept hearing that shutter go off, and so it's like she's capturing my image, and this could be the one that ends up in the book. And so there was a tiny bit of tension there, but when I ended up in this position, and actually initially my knees were up and concealing because I didn't want to show this much. And Debbie said that I looked a little tense, and I said, well, I can't let my knees fall. And she said, yes, you can. But anyway, once I fell in that, somehow that's when I got relaxed. It's something about, okay, yeah, sure, let him. I mean, it doesn't matter. I said to myself, it doesn't matter, so it doesn't matter. And somehow that put me at peace.
Perfectly timed. Our timer just went off. Rory, do you want to read some of the commentary in the chat? It's going wild over here. Oh no, you're muted.
I totally knew that. The pose is a very meditative, this is only the 5th time I've done that, meditative feeling. The image here is a stunning analogy of a baby bird's open beak in the nest. It strongly emphasizes both the shelter and safety of the nest, yet also the desire to be fed. The pose feels at peace. Well said, Roger. The story behind this is so compelling. Roger, I'm going to do you a disservice here because you have a lovely comment. Would you mind reading that one?
Why would you do that?
You know I can't pronounce or spell for poop. Come on.
Oh, okay. So once the perspective shifts from top down, which gives you the image of the baby bird, to front on, then you feel elements of the bodhisattva floating freely through the elements of self.
And I'm not going to lie, it's so much better when because you have this, I know. Aha, this image must be just seconds after that since your core is loose, but your neck is still taut. Yeah. For me as a model, I know I'm tense in a pose, even if the rest of my body looks relaxed. The giveaway is my neck. That's
Gorgeous. I love a soft belly. Any photos with a soft belly, I'm falling in love. You want to go to the next one, Bunny? Oh, also noticing that was like the first colored image we had of any color, and it was so subtle, very subtle. Interesting. Alexia, would you like to speak on this image with Roger Chen?
Sure. I also love that we all decided to pretty much submit monochrome or nearly monochrome images. That's very fascinating to me. I had a really hard time picking a photo because virtually all of the work that I do could have been submitted for this because I mostly model nude. So I had like 20 pictures on my screen being like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But I really love this one because of how strong it feels, because of all that tight musculature, because how else are you going to hold this ridiculous pose? And one of the things the reason I ended up submitting this one is because I was trying to think about what this would look like if it was closed. And it would lose so much, because you'd lose all that tension, but still like the tension of the body, but still looking soft and graceful. You'd lose half of that under clothes. And there's things laughing. Haha, I've fallen into your trap. And yeah, you could do it would be a great fashion image if you tossed some fancy clothes on this, but it would lose all the physical power of it, and it would lose a lot of the sculptural feel to it with the shadows and the lights, and it feels that tossing like fabric on that would lessen it somehow. I'm just babbling now. And if anyone has any questions,
So since you're already talking, my moderator question for this one is, in the context of this presentation, we have seen that most of the images have been monochrome. What is interesting about that is that there is a link between the barrier between art, nudity, pornography, and the sensual material. One of the ways to legitimize nudity is to remove color. So my question to you, creator, is how would this image be different if it was in color? And what choices would you have made on pose?
yeah, it's always interesting from the model's perspective, because you don't know how the photographer is going to post-process this. That when I'm in that pose, I don't know, like I know what I'm going to look like in the pose, but I don't know what choices the photographer is going to make afterwards. And I think you're absolutely right. So the photographer who took this was in a workshop setting, and this photographer had never photographed the nude form before. This was the first person he had ever taken pictures of naked. And so I would absolutely believe that the reason that this image ended up in black and white was because of that, the legitimacy of it being big kid art. If it's in black and white, that if it's black and white, no one's going to mistake this for like porn or smut or anything. So I think that's knowing that this was the first time for this photographer, I'd absolutely believe that need to legitimize it as art ended up with this color, with the photo in monochrome. I think I'd probably like it better. Well, it's hard. I love how sculptural this feels in the black and white. And I think that in color, it would lose a bit of that feeling, but it would gain more life to it. So I don't think that one would necessarily be better than the other. Babbling again.
Not babbling at all. That was super rich in information. I love that question, Roger. I definitely have witnessed, having posed for a lot of workshops, it's like you definitely witness who's willing to take risks in terms of like pushing the line on angles and color schemes and all of that. And it's easiest to stay safe in a way where it's like, oh, the knees are together, so it's closed off. I'm positioned in such a way I'm not even directly facing the nudity of the figure. And then let's accentuate it even further and make it less of a body per se, more of a sculpture, like you described, Alexia, with the black and white. Super interesting. Perfectly timed. We are out of time, but does anybody else want to, I'll give like 9 extra seconds.
Oh, playing off of what Roger said, with the color, you could possibly have toned the image to like a sepia or something that would kind of push it more towards the color side of it, and kind of played with that line and perception, which I think would have made for a really interesting image.
And to quickly answer Rory's question, how I came to that pose was that it was a long workshop and they kept asking me to pose with the chair, and there are only so many ways you can pose with a chair before you just start doing stuff and seeing what sticks. And I got into this pose and I was like, oh, this is going to look really cool. And I've tried to recreate it since, never been able to quite get it right again.
I love that. There's so many pictures of models, and I'm gonna assume now that they're bored posing with the chair that are upside down or sideways or inside out. How do chair?
There's a whole account of models misusing furniture, and I think it comes from that like space of imagination of that boredom opens up, which is also a beautiful, fertile space. I love all these questions. Thank you, Reese, for bringing us to the space of imagination again, wondering like what would it have looked like with a different choice. I love sepia personally. I don't see it a whole lot anymore, but it does have that like vintage antique like nostalgia. And anytime I see a photograph, I think of like that nostalgic feeling. Bunny, would you like to take us to the next and I believe our final submission? Before we hit play here, Rory, do you want to just close out that last one by reading the last few comments?
Let's see. Reese says, would lose some of the emotion to it if used in response to something that Alexia had said. Looks like 2 strobes for lighting. Such a good question in response to something that Roger had said. I agree, and the resulting photos is gorgeous. Roger and his mischievousness. This mod question was written to pull the audience reaction of legitimate nudity and architectural nudity. This is why Ron's image is so powerful and compelling, because it flies in the face of those conventions, and also reminded us bisexual chair, which is why I was snickering. Marcus says yes. Arthur says like the legitimate nudity and architectural nudity throughout, especially the chair, making the architecture more literal. All right.
All right, our final submission, it appears, is a video. Before we experience this, would the artist like to speak on it?
It's going to be 20 seconds, and I would love just if you would play it, watch it, center of your screen, and then I'll say what I was thinking and how to view it. So watch it, see if you feel an emotion, and then we'll talk about it. So that's a little piece of biofeedback. So if you just kind of think about how you're feeling right now, And then if Bunny wouldn't mind playing it again with the idea that those first 5 seconds, you're going to inhale, you're going to hold for 3 seconds, which is when it freezes and you're like, wow, or it stopped moving, just hold. And then when it goes out, you're going to exhale as long as you can until the end of the 20 seconds. And then see if you have the same or in a different feeling than the first time.
Are we ready for me to press play?
Okay, did you want me to talk about it, or does anyone want to tell me how they felt or if they felt any difference?
Personally, I would love to hear more about it.
Okay, so the piece itself is this painting, which I painted. Let's start with this. So this is my shadow that I put on. So first I traced out the shadow, and then I did the painting, and I did marks that I would have done on my body if I was at a, say, a festival or a gathering or a place where, I would normally, meet with people. And then because it is my shadow, I lined it up with the photo of myself. The way that these markings would have been painted on my body. Oops. So in the image, you can see where they are. And then the red line right here is right on my jaw. And so normally I would do these kinds of things on my body or someone else's body, and it wouldn't be photographed, but I'm experimenting with doing things by myself since we're here at home.
But I can't even close my jaw, honestly. It's still on the floor. It's still on the floor. It might stay on the floor for the rest of my life. This was so spectacular. I like the medium that you have literally invented just now. Like just now, I've never had anybody bring me through a mixed media experience in the way that you just have. So interesting. It felt like we were sitting with you. Like when I had the breath, I was like, oh, like I'm like at the table with Danielle right now.
Okay. Well, thank you. That means a lot because I do in-person workshops. It's all about leaving technology behind. So this has been a really interesting journey as I moved through this. Another interesting thing is in the color image, you can see it's not really out there. I picked one that's kind of hidden, but I am free bleeding in this image.
I just want to say first thing I came to my mind when the image played was like a kind of a psychedelic, like acid trip type feel to it. But it also, from a art historical standpoint, kind of pulled in some of the surrealist art and some of the early experiments, some experimentations they done with the film and stuff like that. But it really pulls from the like kind of the psychedelic where you went to one of the acid rock concerts.
Mm-hmm.
You would, some of the images they would be showing on the screens. That is like the feeling I got from this image.
Oh,
it was like I went to I was looking at a screen at a like Grateful Dead concert or something like that.
Well, often the psychedelic community is trying to decolonialize itself. And so it makes sense that you would see similarities in that and some of the colors that you see in native art.
I sort of thought it went from like a virgin to a devil.
Oh.
because it looked like he had a devil's tail at one stage towards the end.
Steve's got your number.
Well, this is about nudity, and this is definitely an unmasked piece.
I love that you made the decision to include the shadow. I think that totally goes along what Steve identified just there. So lovely. That was time. We could talk about this obviously for the rest of the day. But Rory, would you like to read some of the commentary from people's experience?
Sure. Let's see. Wow, that was really cool to incorporate perineum. Amazing work, Danielle. Wow, that was really love all the layers in this mixed media art. You're engulfed by it. Immersive. You accomplished that sense of presence for sure, knowing that accentuates the feeling of yes and freedom in the body that I witnessed and felt. It must have been so interesting to try and transform this experience that is usually very much without technology into one that is entirely dependent on it. I was thinking about that in the aspect of what we do in community and how different it has been in this last year, and how it has propelled some artists to create in new ways, which has built different forms of connection. I see that in your piece. I think that's really beautiful.
I really appreciated the way that you had us breathe, like just watching it without including the breath and then including the breath the second time, because for me, it was definitely a different experience each time. The first time I felt more like, I don't want to say scared, but it felt more like maybe disjointed or like kind of like anxious from my experience. And then the second time with the breath, it felt more like you were being like encompassed by and held by the background instead of like surrounded by in like a scary way. I don't know how to explain it, but like the first time was more of like I was kind of nervous, but then the second time I was like, oh, this feels good.
The breath gave you the context to navigate the experience. I feel like that's what you're describing, Bunny. And that is 100% like when I think of discovering new technologies for connection, I feel like that was the shift. For me, like as you describe, right? It's like you're witnessing it, and there's tension and there's power and there's like all of these things, and the painting has its own presence. The shadow has its own presence. And in Danielle's invitation to enter and to pace our breath in line with this like piece of technology, it sort of unlocks it and allows us to experience it in the way that you meant, I think, where it's sort of like digestible and integratable sensations. Really incredible.
I think we should add these because they're really beautiful. Art challenges technology, technology inspires art. Roger is seconding that with a hell yeah. Temper, I love that. I've heard of Thembo, but this temper is now a new thing that I need to add to my repertoire. Your comment especially resonates with me, Marcus, since I am both a technologist and an artist. It's a quote from the Pixar story that makes it even better.
I think this is our final submission, right? Oh, what a stunning way to end our time together. Thank you all so much.
Most colorful piece at the end.
Yeah.
I wrote a lot of moderator questions that we didn't get to use. Do you guys want me to like drop them in or email the founders so you can just see the other ones that were available, or how you want to handle that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're amazing. Thank you.
This was the way I could figure out how to do a submission. So.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you're right, because it's a technology for connection. So it is an art. You saved that for the last moment. So precious. Thank you so much.
Oh no, Marcus, I actually wrote tailored discussion prompts and moderator questions for this topic. And I wrote a bunch for all the other topics too, because I'm a nerd.
Oh, I love when y'all nerd out and that we can nerd out all together like this. Yeah. It's really like.
We might dive into some of your questions we couldn't get to next week in the discussion, like the community conversation event next Sunday.
Okay, I'll save them.
I love it. Amazing. Bunny, would you like us to take us through those final slides? Do we have, I think there's a close. There might be a close.
Oh, I remember. Awesome.
You're all invited to next weekend if you would like to join us. I can put the link in the chat and y'all can click and sign up. Yeah, we would love for you to join us. These are the questions that we wrote, but obviously there might be more that we can go over since Roger has more wonderful nuance.
And you can bring your own questions as well, because we have the chat Q&A function now, because one of our Beyonders took us beyond the technological limits we had previously. So if you're noticing that we look nicer and suddenly everything's like more fancy, we can thank our community members for that, making that possible. And yeah, we would really love to see y'all next Sunday. Everything's going to be at 1 p.m., keeping it consistent. Let's continue to expand and dive into this topic. We can come unmute if we'd like to say goodbye. And
Lior?
Yes.
This is Brian here. I wanted to remind everybody that here in Seattle, the Seattle Erotic Art Festival is taking place in October. And I mentioned it last time, but I wanted to share the link for the call to art so you can all see it if you have something you want to share. So
thank you so much.
Yeah,
put that in the chat.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Just to let you know, the call for art is from May 14th through June 28th. I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity. And
if anyone else has other opportunities for submissions or anything that you think the community could benefit from, you can always send those to the goingbeyondthelens@gmail.com at any time, and also on Instagram as well. And we're happy to reshare those opportunities and oppo-nudities.
You did, didn't you?
Wow. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
I love y'all so much. I can't even express it all. Thank you for being here and being yourselves. Can't wait until next week.
See y'all later.
A good one.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Everybody have a great weekend.
I'd say, Marcus, go to your room, but you're already there.
You can't fire me. I quit. No.
Right? What was I thinking that? Oh.
Why are y'all so cute?
Already here.
Oh my god!
I call that the Emperor, and then
Hey, you know what? I appreciate the Emperor, though. I'll take that. I'll keep that with me.
I'm keeping it with me because, like, get ready. I'm going to make you a t-shirt on your birthday that says that in finger paint. It's going to look really good.
I love it just in finger paint.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not a t-shirt maker. I'm not going to lie.
No, finger paint would be perfect. All right. Y'all are beautiful.
Much love.
Thank you so much for being here. It was amazing. I love our community.
See you next Sunday.